So, moving forward with LSU football today, there are two guys that I want to talk about. I'll start with AJ Haulcy because I talked about him last week, and so I'll be very brief here. Every time I go out to practice, I'm impressed further with Haulcy. I was impressed with him the first day because I watched him run with the safeties and went, well, he's the most physically put together. Like Deshaun Spears is taller and maybe more imposing in that way, but Haulcy, in terms of his build, is the most physically bulky. And that stood out to me because I know his background as a guy who made 24 tackles in a game and was the Big 12 newcomer of the year and was a first-team All-League player in the Big 12 last year and was tied for the lead in the Big 12 in interceptions. I know he can play the ball. I know he's not afraid to go down there and make tackles. And then you see what his size looks like. And you're like, okay, that guy looks the part. And then he's out there talking, not like smack talking, like he's communicating with everybody and getting them in places that they need to be. And then he's making plays. He's making plays on the ball in coverage. Today, Xavier Thomas was on a slant. He flies up there full speed and hits Thomas. It wasn't like a full wrap up and tackle. It was an aggressive thud for a non-tackle period, but it knocked the ball free. And I've seen him in the background backfield making plays against the run. We saw that on Saturday. He is, to me, unquestionably a starter. I would be stunned if they go out there against Clemson and Haulcy's not one of the top two safeties. They're rotating those guys in every rep almost. Like the first rep we saw, it was Tamarcus Cooley and AJ Haulcy at safety. And that was in the 7-on-7. And then they came out in 11-on-11, and JV and Toviano and Jordan Gilbert were the safeties. There is a constant rotation of guys. So trying to peg the depth chart at this point is a fool's errand. I'm telling you that I think AJ Haulcy is a surefire starter. There's not anything in his game that I see and go, yeah, but he can't. He tackles, he covers, he talks, he's physically built, he's old, he's got skins on the wall. Like the only mark against him I could come up with is he's never played in Blake Baker's defense before, and he wasn't here in the spring. That's the only negative I can say about Haulcy, and at this point, I don't care about that at all. Get him out there. Now, the second guy is one that I've mentioned a couple times last Thursday, last Friday, but one that I need to now spend 5 or 6 minutes on. LSU's offensive line cannot block Bernard Gooden. Cannot. I noticed him in the first practice on Wednesday when no one had any pads on besides a helmet. And I'm just not going to do backflips over defensive tackle, getting into the backfield and making and I use air quotes here, tackle by touching a running back's shoulder in a no pads 11-on-11 3/4 speed drill with no tackling. That's not good. I noticed it and I made a note, but I'm not going to come on here and go, y'all cannot believe this guy from South Florida who has come in with no pads on and in no tackle drills at 3/4 speed. They cannot keep him out of the backfield. That's not a segment. But now I've seen him put pads on twice, on Saturday and today. I've seen him in 11-on-11, and they can't block him. He is in the backfield on running plays and passing plays consistently. And on Saturday, we talked to 4 different players, and we talked to Jacoby and Guillory, and I wrote about this at LouisianaSports.net in my Jacoby and Guillory story. But Guillory's like, that dude's motor is absurd, and his get-off is ridiculous. And that's what we're seeing. I don't know if Bernard Gooden is an every down defensive lineman. I don't know that he can't be. I don't know that he is. And they've got guys to rotate through. But when they need playmaking ability and a guy to shoot a gap, that is Bernard Gooden too. He's the best on the team after a week of practice by a mile. And we've seen different defensive fronts that have Gooden at one tackle and Bro at the other. Gooden at one tackle, Pyburn moving in at the other. That's when they're trying to get more quickness, more disruption, as opposed to the Jacoby and Guillory, Sadir Mitchell, Sean Washington guys that are more space eaters. This is Kyle Williams' style of player. And I'm encouraged by the Pro Football Focus scores from last year at South Florida, especially the one against Alabama that was decent. I'm encouraged by the numbers, 10 tackles for loss. That tells the story of what we're watching here. And sure, maybe Braylon Moore and Josh Thompson and DJ Chester and Paul Mabenga and Cohen Eccles and some of those offensive guards aren't right now first-team All-Americans, and that's why he's having success. But I'm just telling you, the consistency with which he's making these plays tells me it's not a fluke, and it's not just based on the one offensive lineman that can't block him. There's an entire unit of interior offensive linemen that are having nightmares with this guy through a week of camp. And it's not just today. It's Saturday, it's last Wednesday, it's every day. And it is very, very evident to me that he's making real waves early on in camp. Now, I want to piggyback on the point I just made there, because you are seeing, not just once, on multiple days now, LSU moving Jack Pyburn down to tackle at times. I think he's probably a starting end at this point, but if you start to look at that and call it whatever you want, the cheetah package, the NASCAR package, the whatever you want to call it, where they're going to go get pressure, it's 3rd and 11, it's 3rd and 9, they're going to get their guys on the field they think can get up the field. When that happens, Gooden is out there and Pyburn kicks down. And I like that look a lot. I don't know how Jack Pyburn feels about it, because he basically transferred from Florida, his home state school, because they didn't play him on 3rd downs. And this is playing on 3rd downs, but it's playing in a telephone booth on 3rd down between guards and tackles, as opposed to out on the edge where he's going to generally start games and will do a great job playing the run. But it's interesting to me that they're getting dudes on the field that can rush the passer, and that means Gooden's out there, Pyburn kicks down, then you see some other guys. You see Kage Cobbins, who's really shown some get off as a pass rusher, both in the 11-on-11 drills and in the one-on-ones with the pass rushers. You're seeing Gabe Relaford for sure. You're seeing Patrick Payton for sure. You're seeing a number of guys that can go out there and rush the passer. You're not going to see Jacoby Guillory in that spot. You're not going to see Sadir Mitchell or Sean Washington in that spot. I'm not sure if that's a spot for Dominic McKinley. Certainly Ahmad Bro would fit the mold of a shorter guy who can shoot gaps and get back there and be disruptive. But I can't let this show go on any further without stopping and making sure you're all aware of the impact that Bernard Gooden has had. And it's not just me that notices it. I watched Wilson Alexander's from The Advocate practice report. He talked about it. I watched Matt's social media video on our social medias. Yeah, he talked about it too. And it's not a deal where a lot of the time at practice we're fraternizing a lot. Not that we don't get along with all the media. We certainly do. But you're frantically writing and trying to make sure you don't miss the next rep, because you're trying to write who threw it and who was in coverage and who caught it and what number was there and who was down and who was playing left tackle, and you're trying to write everything down, and then it's time for the next play. So there's not a lot of communication between the beat folks during practice. So when you get out of practice and you write your report, or I give my report here on the air, or Matt does his on social media, or Mike Scarborough and Buddy Saundry, whoever it is, you're basically getting it's not a group think tank that's giving you those takes. It's generally what you saw. And everyone is mentioning Bernard Gooden. If he doesn't make a huge impact this year on the field, it won't be the first time we've hyped somebody up that never really made a huge impact, but it would shock me based on what I've seen. And the fact that he's old, and the fact that he did it at South Florida, and the fact that this is his skill set, and this is the skill set that Kyle Williams wants. How many times have you heard me say over the last 3 weeks talking about Kyle Williams and with the in-depth chart and with the meet the freshman, like, he wants guys that are athletic, active, and can get into gaps and make plays in the backfield. He wants 2nd and 13. He wants 2nd and 12. And the guys that do that generally aren't 325 pounds, getting back there and tripping guys up in the backfield. You saw that from Gooden on Wednesday and on Saturday and today. He's been absolutely fantastic thus far. And that was one of the late portal ads. Seems like they may have hit on that one. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.